I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. It was just one of those moments where life throws you a grenade and you don't even realize the pin's already been pulled. It was a Thursday, nothing special. The kind of day where you float through work in a daze, come home, maybe have some wine, and talk about what takeout sounds best. I had just walked in from a late meeting, my laptop bag slung over my shoulder, and Madison was in the kitchen, on a call. I could hear her voice as I kicked off my shoes and dropped my keys into the bowl by the door. Something in her tone stopped me mid-step. Sharp, sarcastic, almost cruel. "Riley, please." You know I settled. I froze. I wasn't supposed to hear that. She was on speakerphone. I could tell because her voice bounced off the hardwood floor, followed by the crystal-clear reply from her best friend, Riley. "Oh, come on, Mads. You don't mean that." Madison laughed, a sound I used to love. Now it sounded venomous. "No, really. I do. I mean, he's sweet, but he's not exactly exciting. He's safe. Predictable. Honestly, sometimes I wonder what the hell I was thinking. He's just not man enough for me." I stood there stunned. My mouth went dry. My heart, on the other hand, started to hammer like it wanted to beat its way out of my chest. "I mean, sex is boring now," she continued, and I heard the sound of a wine glass clinking against the marble counter. "He tries, bless him, but it's like, ugh, there's no fire, no danger, no real dominance. I deserve better." "You don't think that's a little harsh?" Riley asked. "Truth is harsh," Madison snapped. "I feel like I've been lying to myself for years. I wanted the house, the image, the marriage, and I got it, but not the man." I backed up into the hallway, breath shallow, legs suddenly weak. My back hit the wall, and I just slid down until I was sitting on the floor like a goddamn broken thing. My wife. My fucking wife. The woman I gave everything to, my loyalty, my time, my body, was telling her best friend that I wasn't enough, that I never had been, that she settled. My mind reeled. What did that even mean? Was it the way I held her? Was it the fact that I went down on her every time she wanted and never asked for anything in return? Was it because I loved her too much? No, that wasn't it. It was because I didn't excite her. Not in the way she wanted. Not in the way some fantasy man probably would. I could still hear her voice from the kitchen, quieter now, but I couldn't bear to listen to another word. I stood, walked quietly up the stairs like a ghost, and shut the bedroom door behind me. For a long time, I just stood there, staring at the bed we shared. Our sheets, still messy from that morning's half-asleep tangle. Her perfume lingered on the pillows, and suddenly it made my stomach turn. I sat on the edge of the bed and buried my face in my hands. I didn't cry. I couldn't cry. I was too stunned, too numb. It felt like being in a car crash where the airbag doesn't deploy and the windshield cracks right into your soul. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. She had no idea I was home. No idea I heard everything. So I decided right then, I'd pretend I didn't hear it. And I'd watch. I'd listen. I'd wait. Maybe it was cowardice. Maybe it was calculation. But one thing was certain. Something broke in me that night. Something permanent. Something that wasn't coming back. Later, when she came upstairs, she acted completely normal. Asked me if I wanted to order Thai. Kissed me on the cheek like she hadn't just gutted me hours earlier. I played along. I nodded, smiled, said, "Pad CEW sounds good." That night, when she undressed in front of me, I caught myself staring at her differently. It wasn't admiration anymore. It was study, analysis. Her body still turned me on. How could it not? Madison was stunning. The way her bra slipped from her shoulders. The way her hips curved in those lace panties. But now, the lust had a layer of ice beneath it. She slipped into bed beside me, curling up against my chest. I wrapped my arm around her automatically. But something about the way she nestled into me, comfortable, entitled, like nothing was wrong, made me sick. She didn't even feel guilty. She hadn't meant for me to hear it, sure. But if that's how she talked to her best friend, how did she really see me? That night, I lay beside her for hours, wide awake, staring at the ceiling. Her breathing was slow and steady, the way it always got when she drifted off. Peaceful, dreaming. I was wide awake in a nightmare. The words played over in my head like a recording on loop. Not man enough. I settled. Sex is boring. They didn't fade. They etched themselves into my brain. And the worst part? It wasn't even the betrayal of hearing those things. It was that I had no idea she felt that way. That someone could live with you, sleep with you, kiss you every morning, and still look at you like a consolation prize? That terrified me more than anything else. And for the first time since I said, I do, I didn't know who my wife really was. The hardest part wasn't pretending I hadn't heard her. It was acting like I still believed everything was fine. That Friday morning, Madison woke up wrapped in my arms, stretched, yawned, and smiled like she hadn't gutted me the night before with every cruel syllable that still echoed in my head. I watched her, silent, while she scrolled through her phone in bed, probably checking Instagram or group chats, as if nothing had shifted between us. But everything had. I could see it now, the coldness that had crept into her touch. The mechanical kisses, the half-hearted smiles, the way she never reached for me anymore unless she needed something. I hadn't noticed the signs before. Maybe I hadn't wanted to. But now I was looking, and it was all there. She wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she never had been. That day, I worked from home. She left before 9 a.m. in a tight white blouse and heels I hadn't seen in months, her perfume trailing behind her. "Have a good day, babe," she said absently, sipping her iced coffee before kissing me on the cheek. Her lips barely brushed my skin. I nodded, forcing a smile. "You too." The door closed behind her. Silence. I sat down on the couch, opened my laptop, and stared at it for an hour without doing anything. My mind kept replaying her voice, her words, the bitterness in them. How long had she been feeling that way? Months? Years? Had all those nights we made love, all the vacations, the anniversaries, the inside jokes, had it all been fake to her? Or had she just grown bored? I started watching her more closely after that. Quietly, casually, but I noticed things I never had before. Like how she always kept her phone screen tilted away from me now. How she suddenly had late meetings at work again, or drinks with co-workers I'd never heard of. How her gym bag stayed in the trunk of her car most days, even though she told me she'd been going every morning. One night, around 11 p.m., I walked downstairs for water and saw her sitting in the dark dining room, phone lit up in her hand, grinning like a schoolgirl. She didn't notice me. When I stepped into the light, she startled and shoved the phone under her thigh. "Jesus, you scared me," she said, clutching her chest. "Who were you talking to?" I asked gently. "Riley. Just girl stuff. You know how she is." "Right." And just like that, the lie passed between us like a fog. Thick, heavy, and left behind the stench of something rotting. Riley, her best friend. The same woman who'd been on the other end of that speakerphone call. I hadn't seen Riley since that night, but something about her silence was loud. It wasn't just Madison acting different. Riley started avoiding me. We used to joke around. She'd text me memes sometimes, or we'd chat when she came over. But now, she barely made eye contact when I saw her. And when she hugged Madison goodbye, her glances lingered on me a beat too long, like guilt was seeping through her mascara. One evening, I walked past Madison's office while she was on a Zoom call. Riley's voice floated through the door. I stopped, listening again without trying to. I couldn't make out everything, but I caught this. "You know it's wrong, Mads. You can't keep stringing him along like this." Madison laughed. "Don't act like you're the moral compass here." Riley hesitated. "I'm just saying, he doesn't deserve it." That was all I heard before Madison noticed the hallway shadow and shut the door. So now, I wasn't just haunted by what I had heard. I was obsessed with what I hadn't. At night, when Madison lay beside me, I studied the way her back turned toward me. Her body used to curl into mine without thinking. Now it was like magnets flipped the wrong way, her warmth retreating into a world I was no longer allowed to enter. Even the sex changed. We weren't having it often, and when we did, it was distant, like she was somewhere else. Her eyes closed too quickly. Her moans sounded rehearsed. Once, I caught her flinch when I kissed the inside of her thigh. A subtle shift. A silent alarm. I started noticing other things too. Her lingerie drawer had new additions I hadn't seen her wear. She had new bras, silk ones, with details she never picked for me. One pair of panties still had the tag tucked under the waistband. "Impulse buy?" she said when I asked. Riley and I were shopping after brunch. But I knew better. Madison hated shopping. I didn't need proof. I had the truth already, didn't I? But proof was what I began looking for. The distance between us grew like a chasm. And yet, I kept pretending, smiling, making dinner, asking about her day, all while a storm brewed quietly beneath my ribs. The worst part? I still loved her. Even knowing what I knew, I still wanted to fix it. Still wanted to reach across the bed and hold her. Still wanted to believe there was a version of us where she came back to me. But she was already gone. And Riley? Riley became the wild card in all of this. Because every time I saw her now, her eyes looked sad. Like she wanted to say something, but couldn't. She still came around occasionally, usually with a bottle of wine and fake laughter. But she never stayed long. And she barely spoke to me unless Madison was in the room. Once, after Madison stepped into the kitchen, Riley lingered by the door. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in weeks, and her lips parted like she was going to say something. But then she didn't. She just whispered, "I'm sorry," and followed Madison out. I stood in the hallway long after the door shut behind them, staring into the silence, wondering what exactly she meant. But I knew, and it was only a matter of time before the dam broke. It happened on a Wednesday night. One of those forgettable midweek evenings where the house is quiet, the wine's been poured, and I'm sitting on the couch with the TV remote in hand, pretending to watch something I won't remember tomorrow. Madison was working late again. That phrase had become her shield. Unquestioned, convenient, and emotionally bulletproof. I didn't bother texting her anymore when she ran late. The lies came so effortlessly that watching them pile up just exhausted me. It was nearly 10:47 p.m. when my phone buzzed beside me. At first, I didn't check it. I figured it was an ad, or maybe one of those spam texts from some fake airline scam. But when the buzz came again, 3 short bursts, I picked it up. The name on the screen made my stomach twist. Riley. I stared at it for a second. We hadn't texted each other in weeks. Not since that night. The night I overheard Madison on speakerphone trash-talking me like I was an unfortunate mistake she couldn't return. I opened the message. "Can we talk? Please." I know what she said. And "she doesn't deserve you." I read it twice, then 3 more times. My pulse thumped in my ears. Riley knew. She wasn't just feeling guilty. She knew I'd heard Madison. I didn't reply immediately. I put the phone down and stared at the blank TV screen, my reflection staring back at me in the black mirror. There was a tension in my chest I hadn't felt in a long time. A cross between dread and desperate curiosity. What did Riley mean? Why now? A few minutes later, a second message came through. "I shouldn't be saying this, but I can't watch you keep pretending anymore. Can we meet? Just to talk. I promise I won't make it weird." I wanted to ignore her. I really did. But the truth? I needed someone to talk to. Someone who saw me. Someone who didn't lie to my face every morning and fake affection every night. So I typed back. "Where?" She responded almost instantly. "My place. Tomorrow night? 8. I'll make sure Madison doesn't know." There was something unsettling about that last line. I'll make sure Madison doesn't know. How much more did she know? What else had Madison said? The next day dragged like an anchor around my ankle. I went through meetings at work like a zombie, nodding at project updates I didn't hear, clicking through emails without reading them. I didn't even eat lunch. Just drank 2 coffees and sat in my car for a half hour thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. By the time 8 p.m. rolled around, I was parked outside Riley's apartment, hands gripping the steering wheel, wondering what the hell I was doing. Her apartment was quiet, tucked behind a row of boutique buildings just off Jefferson Avenue. I'd been there once before for a wine night Madison had insisted I attend. That night felt like it belonged to another lifetime. I knocked twice. When she opened the door, she looked different. Less makeup, hair pulled back. She was wearing a loose sweater and leggings, barefoot, holding a glass of wine like she'd been pacing with it. "Hey," she said, her voice soft, nervous. "Hey." She stepped aside, letting me in. The apartment smelled like vanilla and eucalyptus. Warm, comforting. Her couch had a throw blanket folded neatly over the back, and a small candle flickered on the coffee table. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said, sitting down slowly. "Neither was I admitted, sinking into the chair across from her. There was a pause. She sipped her wine. I watched the candle dance in the dim light. "I heard you," she finally said. "That night. I didn't think you were home." I swallowed hard. "I didn't mean to listen." "I know." She looked up, eyes glassy. "But I'm glad you did." That caught me off guard. "Why?" "Because maybe now you'll stop blaming yourself." I stared at her. "What does that mean?" Riley set her wine down. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Her voice dropped. "She's been different for a long time. You know that. But you kept trying. You never stopped loving her. Even when she stopped showing up." I tried to tell her, "Jack. I really did." "You talked to her about this?" She nodded slowly. More times than I can count. I told her she was being cruel, that what she was doing to you was selfish and wrong. I felt my chest tighten. So she has been cheating. Riley hesitated. I don't have screenshots or photos. But yes, I believe she has. And not just emotionally. There's someone else. I don't know who. She won't admit it. But she's been lying to both of us. The room felt like it tilted. I looked down at my hands, fists now, and realized my nails were biting into my palms. I thought maybe I did something wrong. I whispered. That I just wasn't enough anymore. No, Riley said sharply, her voice laced with anger. Don't ever say that again. You are more than enough. She's just broken, and she doesn't know what she wants. There was a silence between us. Heavy, dense with all the unsaid words floating in the air. Then she leaned back against the couch and closed her eyes. I never wanted to be part of this, she said. But watching her talk about you like that, like you were some joke, it killed me. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because deep down, I'd started believing those things too. That I was boring, weak, too safe, not exciting enough. Then Riley opened her eyes again. And what she said next, it changed everything. She's wrong, Jack, she whispered. So wrong. You're more than man enough. I didn't know what to say after she whispered those words. You're more than man enough. Riley didn't flinch after saying it. She just looked at me, her gaze steady, soft, but charged. Like she'd finally taken a breath she'd been holding for years. My throat went dry. It should have been comforting, what she said. It should have made me feel seen. Instead, it made my heart pound for entirely different reasons. Because the way she said it wasn't just friendly. It wasn't pity. It was something else. I'm sorry, she said, catching the flicker of conflict on my face. I shouldn't have said that. It's not fair to you. No, I said, almost too quickly. It's okay. My voice trailed off. I didn't know how to finish that sentence. She stood, suddenly needing distance, maybe space from her own impulsive honesty. She walked to the window and crossed her arms. The city outside was quiet, blurred behind a thin veil of rain that had started while we were talking. Streetlights glowed like dying embers on wet pavement. I didn't invite you here to make things more complicated, she said. I just wanted to tell you the truth. Because you deserve to know it. You deserve to stop living in the dark. I appreciate that. She turned back to me, her lips pressed together. But there's more, she said. What do you mean? Her fingers gripped the window frame. She's not just been distant. She's been mocking you, Jack. Laughing about how she's got you wrapped around her finger. How she could do anything and you'd never leave. I looked away, jaw clenched. And the worst part, Riley continued, her voice softer now, is that she says these things like it's funny. Like hurting you is just part of some game she's playing. My stomach twisted. I didn't know if it was from disgust or rage or something else entirely, but the air in Riley's apartment suddenly felt thick. Too warm. I stood and paced slowly toward the kitchen, needing to move, to do something. She wasn't always like this, I said, almost to myself. No, Riley said. But she's been like this for a long time. I turned to face her. She was still watching me. Still seeing me in that way Madison never did anymore. Not with judgment. Not with manipulation. Just honesty. Maybe even longing. I walked closer. She didn't move. I don't know how to react to any of this, I said. You're allowed to feel however you need to feel. I should be angry. You are angry. You've just been holding it in so long you don't even recognize it anymore. There was a beat of silence. Her eyes searched mine, then dropped to my chest, to the rise and fall of my breath. When she looked back up, she didn't say a word. She just stepped closer. So close I could feel the warmth of her body. Her hand came up, hesitant at first, and rested gently against my chest. Jack, she whispered, her voice trembling now. She's wrong about you. You are everything. You just gave it to the wrong person. I didn't know when I stopped thinking. Maybe it was the moment her hand touched me. Maybe it was the moment I realized how long it had been since someone looked at me like that, like I was wanted, like I was a man worth desiring. We stood there, face to face, hearts pounding in sync, breath mingling in the dim light. She leaned in first, just an inch, but it was enough. My lips barely brushed hers, so close, it was electric. There was a tension in the air that threatened to explode. It wasn't just sexual, it was something deeper, starved, raw, but I pulled back. Slowly, carefully. I can't, I said, my voice low. Not like this. She nodded, understanding immediately. But the look in her eyes, God, that look, was seared into me. I'm not trying to take advantage, she said softly. I'm just tired of pretending I don't feel what I feel. My heart was hammering. I stepped back, ran a hand through my hair. You didn't make this complicated, Riley, I said. She did. Another beat passed. The air between us still vibrated with what almost happened. Do you want to stay? She asked, her voice fragile. I shook my head. I think if I stay, I won't be able to walk away. Her smile was sad. Then go, before we both do something we can't undo. I nodded, picked up my coat, and walked to the door. But before I left, I turned around. She was still standing in the middle of the room, her eyes glassy, her body tense. I believe you, Riley, I said. About everything. She nodded slowly, lips trembling. I just wanted you to hear it from someone who actually sees you. I stepped out into the rain, letting it hit my face like a baptism. I didn't run. I didn't rush. I just walked, slow and steady, back to my car, heart thundering like I'd just survived a war I never knew I'd been drafted into. And all the way home, her voice echoed in my head. She's wrong. You're more than man enough. Let me show you. She almost had, and that thought haunted me more than anything else. I told myself I was done chasing ghosts. After that night at Riley's apartment, the tension, the honesty, the nearly crossed line, I swore I'd focus on getting my head straight. Figure out my next move. Fix what I could. Accept what I couldn't. But pretending nothing had changed between me and Madison became a daily performance I could barely stomach. The woman I once knew had become a stranger in my own home, a polished actress in a costume of familiarity. Her smiles were rehearsed. Her kisses tasted like lies. And then came the night I saw the messages. It was late, close to midnight. I was in bed, half asleep, when Madison came back from drinks with coworkers. She smelled different. Sweet and musky. Perfume I didn't recognize. Her hair was messier than usual, like someone's hands had been in it. She slipped into bed without a word. I laid there, eyes closed, but wide awake, listening to her breathing even out. When I finally turned over, she was curled away from me, her phone still in her hand, the screen softly lit. I don't know what made me do it. Curiosity? Pain? The need for certainty? All I know is I waited until her breathing settled into the rhythm of sleep. Then I gently lifted the phone from her hand. She hadn't closed out of her texts. The screen glowed with a thread of messages from a contact saved as J. Tonight was amazing. You always know what I need. I still can't believe your husband doesn't suspect a thing. You coming next weekend too? I'll bring the wine. You bring the thighs. I felt something inside me unravel. Every part of me wanted to wake her up, scream, throw the phone against the wall, demand answers, demand something. But I didn't. I put the phone down slowly, turned off the screen, slid out of bed, and sat on the floor in the dark like a man trying to stitch himself back together. This wasn't just emotional distance anymore. This was real, concrete, physical betrayal. She was cheating. And worse, she thought I was too dumb to notice. The next morning, I didn't say a word about the texts. Instead, I watched her. Watched how she hummed to herself while making coffee. Watched how she danced around questions about her evening. I asked casually, "Who's Jay?" She didn't even blink. "Oh, just someone from the marketing team. We were talking about the holiday campaign." Liar. I studied her closely. There wasn't a trace of shame in her voice. No guilt. No hesitation. She really believed she could keep getting away with this. So I didn't push. I didn't fight. I just disconnected. That day at work, I found myself staring out the window more than usual, thinking about Riley. Her words. Her warmth. The honesty in her eyes when she touched my chest and whispered, "Let me show you." I'd walked away that night. Out of principle. Out of fear. But Riley hadn't left my mind since. Not once. When her name lit up my phone the following evening, I didn't hesitate. "You okay?" That was all she said. 3 words. A lifeline. I replied, "No, but I'm getting there." She didn't ask what happened. Maybe she didn't need to. "Want to talk?" I hesitated, then typed, "Only if I can see your face." We met that night. Neutral ground. A quiet rooftop bar that overlooked the city skyline. Low music, soft lighting. Just enough distance from the rest of the world to pretend it didn't exist for a little while. She wore a black sweater dress that hugged her in all the right ways. Her hair tied back loosely, lips bare. No makeup, no armor. Just Riley. Real, present, raw. I didn't pretend to make small talk. I told her everything. The texts, the lies, the sinking feeling that I'd been a background actor in my own marriage for years. She listened without interrupting, just held her wine glass and watched me with eyes that understood too much. When I finished, she reached across the table and placed her hand on mine. You didn't deserve any of this, she said. And I hate that she made you question your worth. The contact of her hand was grounding. Her touch was soft, steady, a silent kind of affection that didn't ask for anything back. I don't even know who I am anymore, I admitted. You're still him, she said. You're still you. She just stopped seeing it. That doesn't mean it disappeared. There was silence for a moment. Then she whispered, I never stopped seeing it. That line, those 6 words, settled over me like a breath of warm air in the middle of winter. Something in me shifted. I leaned forward. She didn't move. Her lips parted ever so slightly. Her eyes flicked down to my mouth, then back up. I kissed her. There was no crash. No fireworks. It wasn't explosive. It was slow, deep, honest. The kind of kiss you feel behind your ribs. And in that moment, I wasn't thinking about Madison, or revenge, or even betrayal. I was thinking about what it felt like to finally be wanted. It didn't feel like a betrayal. Not at first. Not when Riley's lips were soft against mine. Not when her hand slid to my jaw and her thumb stroked just beneath my ear. Not when the world disappeared and all that remained was the weight of years lifting off my shoulders. That kiss, it was the first time in years I didn't feel invisible. We didn't rush it. There was no urgency, no drunken stumbling toward some impulsive mistake. When we finally parted, our foreheads stayed pressed together, breathing the same shaky air. Her fingers rested on my chest, and I realized my heart was thundering beneath them. I've wanted that for so long, she whispered. I didn't ask how long. I didn't want to know. I could see it in her eyes. This wasn't new for her. It wasn't about comfort or guilt or spite. It had weight. It had history, and I was only now seeing what she'd carried silently for years. I shouldn't be here, I said. But you are. The truth of it settled between us. I didn't leave right away. We walked. Her apartment wasn't far, and neither of us wanted to go back to reality just yet. The rain from earlier had dried up, leaving the sidewalks glossy under the streetlights. Every step felt dangerous. Every brush of her hand against mine sent sparks racing up my arm. When we got to her building, we hesitated at the entrance. She looked at me, unsure. You don't have to come up, she said. I didn't bring you here for that. But I wanted to. God help me, I wanted to. She unlocked the door, and I followed. The elevator ride was quiet. Not awkward, just heavy with anticipation. By the time we stepped into her apartment, my nerves were fraying. She poured us both a drink, but I barely tasted mine. She stood in front of the window, glass in hand, her silhouette framed by the city lights. I used to imagine this, she said softly. Not like this exactly, but close. I stepped behind her, close enough to feel the warmth of her back against my chest. She turned, slowly, and looked up at me. I know this is messy, she said, but I need you to know this isn't about her. I'm not doing this to prove anything. I'm doing this because I see you. I always have. And just like that, the space between us disappeared. We kissed again, longer this time, deeper, with need that had been buried under years of silence. When she pulled me toward the bedroom, I didn't resist. She undressed slowly, not like Madison used to, performative, teasing, calculated, but naturally, genuinely. She let me see her, all of her, no lights off, no hiding. And when I touched her, when I laid her down and moved between her thighs, it didn't feel like something forbidden. It felt like coming home to a place I never knew I'd left. Her body responded to mine in ways I hadn't felt in years. There were no games, no routine, no forced moans or exaggerated movements. Riley touched me like she wanted me, every inch, every breath. She clutched at my back, pulled my mouth to her collarbone, whispered my name like it meant something. I hadn't heard my name like that in so long. When I sank into her, we both let out a sound that wasn't just desire, it was relief. Like something finally clicked into place. She moved with me, not beneath me. She met every thrust, every kiss, every moment with heat and honesty. Her legs wrapped around my waist, holding me close, and when she came, it wasn't performative. She didn't fake a thing. Her body trembled against mine, her hands in my hair, her breath hot against my ear. And when I followed her, it wasn't just sex. It was something else. something I didn't know I'd been starved for. Afterward, we lay tangled in the sheets, breathing hard, our bodies still slick with sweat. She rested her head on my chest, one leg draped over mine. No words, just the quiet beat of two people who knew something had changed forever. Finally, she broke the silence. I loved you before she ever married you, she said. I never told you. I never got the chance. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just listened. She used to talk about you like a prize. Like you were some trophy she'd snatched before someone else could. And when she told me she was dating you, I swallowed it. I told myself it didn't matter. That she was happy, and that was enough. I turned to face her. Why didn't you ever say anything? Because I thought she loved you. I thought maybe, if I stayed in her life, I could still be close to you in some way, even if it killed me. She smiled, sadly. But then I saw how she treated you, how she slowly chipped away at you, and I started hating myself for staying silent. I brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. You were never the problem, Riley. She shook her head. I should have said something sooner, before she got her claws in you. You think I would have picked you instead? She met my gaze. I don't know, but maybe you'd be happier. I didn't respond, because the truth? She might have been right. By the time I got home from Riley's apartment the next morning, the guilt had started to gnaw at me. Not guilt for what I'd done. No, that ship had sailed the moment Madison buried her vows under someone else's body. This was something deeper. Not shame, just sadness. Sadness that I had to hide something that felt more real than anything I'd shared with my wife in years. When I walked through the front door, Madison was already in the kitchen, sipping her usual iced coffee like she hadn't spent the night God knows where. Her hair was curled, makeup flawless, wearing a tight green blouse she definitely hadn't worn for me. Did you go for a run or something? She asked without looking up from her phone. Something like that. She didn't press. She never did. She was too busy keeping her own secrets. Over the next week, I stopped trying to pretend. I didn't confront her, not yet, but I started paying attention. Not just to her excuses, but to her timing, her phone habits, the lies she barely bothered to polish. Every time she told me she had a team dinner or a late campaign meeting, I tracked the hours. I noted the changes in her scent, the way she'd leave wearing flats and return in heels. She started showering before coming home, not after. She no longer kissed me goodnight. She simply curled away and scrolled her phone until she fell asleep. Once, she left her purse on the kitchen counter while she was in the bathroom. I wasn't proud of what I did next, but pride was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore. I opened it and found a small box of condoms shoved inside a zippered pouch. Madison had been on birth control for years. We hadn't used condoms since our first few dates. That was proof enough. She wasn't just cheating. She was careful about it. Strategic. Comfortable. She thought I was oblivious. She thought I was weak. The thought didn't make me angry. It made me cold. Numb. Like all the warmth I'd ever felt for her had been scraped away, layer by layer, until all that remained was indifference. And when you stop loving someone, you also stop fearing their judgment. So I started talking to Riley more. Not just late-night texts, but real conversations. Vulnerable ones. The kind that built slowly, with truth instead of manipulation. She made me laugh again. She reminded me that I was still alive beneath the surface of all the pain. We didn't sleep together again, but we didn't need to. The connection we built now had a heartbeat. Something that pulsed beneath every glance, every silence, every breath we shared. Meanwhile, Madison was falling deeper into her own fiction. She was careless now, too arrogant to cover her tracks. One evening, I came home early from work and found her in the backyard on the phone. She didn't see me through the kitchen window. I didn't catch the entire call, but I heard just enough. You make me feel alive in ways he never could. I know, but he's still useful. Useful, like I was some placeholder. A financial cushion. A conveniently neutered husband who kept the lights on while she played house with someone else behind my back. I wanted to rage. To burst through the door and let her know I'd heard everything. But something in me held back. I wasn't just waiting anymore. I was watching. Waiting for her to hang herself with her own rope. Rumors started surfacing too. A friend of mine, Kevin, who worked at a nearby firm, texted me out of nowhere one afternoon. Hey, not sure if I should say this, but I saw Madison at the wine bar on 9th last night. She wasn't alone. I played dumb. Was she with coworkers? Doubt it. The guy had his hand on her thigh. Definitely didn't look like a team-building event. I stared at the message, thumb hovering over the reply. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't need the confirmation anymore. I already knew. But hearing it from someone else? It added fuel to a fire I'd kept on simmer. One night, after another one of her mysterious late arrivals, I met her at the door. She smelled like whiskey and sex, neither of which she'd shared with me in months. How was the meeting? I asked flatly. She blinked. Exhausting. The client's a nightmare. Did the nightmare put his hands on your thighs, or just the small of your back? Her expression barely changed, just a slight flicker of annoyance. What's that supposed to mean? I shrugged. You tell me. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. No, Madison, I said, voice cold. I'm being observant. She walked past me without another word, and I let her, because I wasn't ready to confront her yet. Not until I had everything. A few nights later, Riley called me out of the blue. Her voice was tight, hesitant. There's something you need to know. What now? I asked, already tired. I didn't want to say this, but Madison's been telling people that you're the one holding her back, that she's only with you because you're safe. My jaw tightened. She said worse. She also said you'd never leave her, that she could do anything she wanted and you'd just stay. I didn't respond. She laughs about it, Jack, Riley said, voice shaking. Like you're some spineless joke of a man who doesn't even realize he's being played. I closed my eyes. Inhaled deeply. That's not the worst part, she added. There's more. I told her to stop. I begged her to. I told her she was being cruel. And she laughed at me, too. Silence. Jack, she said I could never steal you away. That no matter what, I'd always just be her pathetic, jealous friend. That did it. Something snapped inside me. Not rage. Not despair. Just clarity. Thanks, Riley, I said. I needed to hear that. What are you going to do? I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I'm going to show her just how wrong she's always been. Riley didn't call again after that night. I think she knew I needed space. Or maybe she needed it, too. Either way, her words kept echoing through me. She said I could never steal you away. That wasn't just arrogance. That was the kind of venom that reveals who someone really is when they stop pretending to care. Madison had no idea I was already gone, already unraveling everything she thought she'd sewn up tight. But Riley? She'd shown more loyalty to me in weeks than Madison had in years. Still, there were pieces missing. And the next time I saw Riley, I realized just how far things had really gone. She invited me over again a few days later. Her apartment was quieter than usual. No candles this time. No wine poured in advance. Just her, hair pulled into a messy bun, sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder, eyes rimmed red like she hadn't slept. She didn't say hello, just opened the door and stepped aside. I walked in, cautious. The energy was off. Heavy. You okay? I asked. She closed the door slowly and leaned against it like it was the only thing holding her up. No. I waited. Riley looked at me with something that wasn't just sadness. It was regret. Deep. Tangled. Old. She's been cheating for months, Jack, she said. Longer than you know. My stomach clenched. How do you know that? Because I tried to stop her, she said, voice trembling. I begged her to stop, to come clean. But she didn't care. She was proud of it. She laughed about how easy it was to lie to you. She moved to the couch and sat, knees pulled up, fingers woven together. She said you were pathetic, that you'd never leave, that she could keep playing house while sneaking off with whoever gave her attention. The words cut, but I stayed quiet. I needed to hear all of it. She even joked that if she got caught, you'd probably blame yourself. I sat across from her. My hands were shaking. I thought about telling you, Riley said. So many times. But she always pulled me back in. Said I was just jealous. That I couldn't stand to see you with someone else. I blinked. Jealous. Her face flushed. She knew how I felt about you. She always knew. Even before she married you. I never said anything outright, but it was obvious. She used it against you, I said quietly. She mocked me, Riley said. Told me I'd never have a chance with you. That I'd always just be her sidekick. Her backup. She stood suddenly and paced the living room. I tried so hard to stay out of it, Jack. To not cross any lines. But when I saw what she was doing to you, what she was saying about you, I broke. She turned back to me, voice rising. She laughed when I told her I couldn't watch anymore. She said, What? You're gonna steal him? Please. He's barely a man. You couldn't handle him if you tried. I felt something inside me twist. Anger. Disgust. Something sharp and cold. She dared me. Riley whispered. Like it was a game. Our eyes locked. And then I realized. I don't want to play anymore. She came to sit beside me on the couch. Not close. Just enough. I didn't tell you all this to hurt you, she said. I told you because I need you to see her for what she is. I do, I said. I don't want you to feel sorry for me, she added. I don't, I said. I feel sorry for who I used to be. We sat in silence for a long time. Then Riley said something I wasn't expecting. She didn't start the affair because you failed her. I looked at her. She started it because she failed you. Because she got scared. She didn't know how to be loved by someone who didn't make her feel disposable. I let that sink in. It made sense, in a twisted way. Madison had always chased chaos. She liked the high of being wanted more than the comfort of being loved. I was going to tell you everything sooner, Riley continued. But I kept thinking, what if I'm just making it worse? You didn't. She looked down. The night you kissed me, it meant something. It did. Her eyes met mine. Then what do we do now? That was the question, wasn't it? Later that night, I sat in my car outside our house for nearly 20 minutes before going in. Madison was curled up on the couch, wine glass in hand, wearing nothing but one of my old t-shirts like she hadn't just spent months betraying me. Hey, babe, she said, eyes glued to the TV. I didn't reply. I watched her for a moment, studied the way she tucked her legs under the blanket, the fake ease in her body. She thought I was still clueless, still hers. It was almost laughable. Where were you? She asked casually. Out, I said. With who? Does it matter? She looked at me then. Really looked. There was a flicker of tension in her eyes. A crack in the facade. And I realized something. For the first time in a long while she was worried. Good. Let her feel that. Let her wonder. I didn't sleep in bed that night. I took the guest room. She didn't follow. The next morning, she didn't ask why. She just kissed me on the cheek, told me she had to run to the gym, and left without waiting for a response. 10 minutes later, I got a text from Riley. I told her I was done. I stared at the screen. How'd she take it? Called me a traitor. Said I'm dead to her. Another message followed immediately after. I don't care. And that, more than anything, told me what I needed to know. Madison's house of lies was starting to collapse. And Riley? She'd finally walked out before it crushed her. I didn't sleep the night before. Not a minute. I lay there in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, the silence screaming louder than any fight ever could. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just resolved. This had to end. Madison had built a throne of lies and arrogance, and for too long, I let her believe I was too weak to knock it down. But now I had everything: truth, evidence, strength, and something she never expected me to find again: self-respect. That morning, she breezed into the kitchen wearing gym tights and a too-tight sports bra, makeup already on, hair done up like she was meeting someone more important than a treadmill. Morning, she chirped, pouring her protein shake. I didn't say a word. She glanced at me, brows raised. You're in a mood. I nodded slowly. Yeah, you could say that. She leaned on the counter, sipping through a straw. Look, if this is about the whole guest room thing, I figured you just needed space. It's fine. Everyone hits rough patches. I tilted my head. Is that what this is? A rough patch? She smirked, clearly amused by my tone. Don't be dramatic, Jack. You've been all broody and distant lately. I stepped closer. You know, it's funny. I've been thinking a lot about that. She arched a brow. About what? About what you think I am. Or rather, what you've convinced yourself I am. Her smile faltered. Just slightly. Okay, what's this about? I heard you. She blinked. Heard me. That night. Speakerphone. You were talking to Riley. You didn't know I was home. Her face paled like I'd flipped a switch. I continued, calmly, every word deliberate. I heard every word you said. About how I'm not man enough. About how you settled. About how you deserve better. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. You called me a placeholder, I said. A safety net. Something to keep you warm while you chased chaos. Her lips parted. Jack, wait. Don't, I said sharply, holding up a hand. Don't insult both of us by pretending it was taken out of context. She stood frozen now, exposed. You lied to my face for months. You came home reeking of sex and cheap whiskey and expected me to just smile and pretend not to notice. Her voice finally returned, shaky. I didn't mean it. I was venting. Stop. I stepped closer, inches from her now. You meant every word. And you've been cheating on me for months. Her eyes widened. You went through my phone? No, I said. You were just sloppy. She backed away slightly, wrapping her arms around herself. I was going to tell you. No, I snapped. You were going to keep using me. You never planned to tell me. You didn't think you had to. Her eyes narrowed now, switching tactics. Oh, so what? Now you're a victim? Come on, Jack. Grow up. Marriages go through things. People make mistakes. I laughed. A bitter, disbelieving sound. You didn't make a mistake. You made choices. Repeatedly. And the worst part? You mocked me to your best friend while doing it. That's when she tried to flip it. You've changed, she said. You've been cold. Distant. Maybe if you'd actually touched me once in a while, I wouldn't have. Don't. My voice cut the air like a blade. You cheated. You lied. You laughed in my face. And now you want to blame me? She went quiet. I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes. The panic slowly blooming. You always said you wanted a strong man, I said. Well, here I am. Strong enough to walk away from you. Her face went white. You're leaving me? I already did, I said. The second I realized who you really are. She stared at me, eyes glossing over. Wait, you can't just leave. I can't, I said. And I will. Jack, she reached for me. I stepped back. I packed a bag. I'll be gone today. Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't trust them. Not after everything. You're really doing this? She whispered. Yes, I said flatly. Because I deserve better. Her jaw trembled. Is this about Riley? I didn't answer. Her voice turned venomous. She's been in love with you since the beginning. You know that, right? She was always pathetic. No, I said calmly. She was always honest. Something you couldn't be even when the truth was staring you in the mirror. She laughed bitterly. You're making a mistake. I already made it, I said. I married you. Her hand flew, fast and out of nowhere, but I caught her wrist before it landed. Don't, I said coldly. Not even once. She yanked her arm back, stunned, and then I walked past her, out the front door, into the cool morning air that suddenly felt like freedom. I didn't go to Riley's immediately. I drove around for a while, through streets I hadn't noticed in years. I passed parks we never visited, restaurants we'd always meant to try. I felt like I was waking up from a long, sad dream. When my phone buzzed, it was Riley. You okay? I stared at the screen, then replied. I finally left. There was a pause. Do you want to come here? I hesitated. Then, yeah, I do. When I walked into her apartment, Riley didn't speak. She just stepped forward and pulled me into her arms, her touch warm, grounding. She didn't ask for details. She didn't push for answers. She just held me until my shaking stopped. And in that embrace, I finally understood what Madison never gave me. Peace. Madison didn't implode right away. No, that would have been too simple, too satisfying. Instead, she unraveled slowly, piece by piece, like a dress caught on a nail, threads pulling loose with every desperate move she made. At first, she played it cool. She didn't call, didn't text, didn't even ask where I'd gone. She assumed I'd come crawling back, ashamed and broken, begging for another shot. That I'd cool off, realize what I was giving up, and fall right back into her web. But when a week passed and I still hadn't come home, the mask began to slip. She showed up at my office. I was in the middle of a meeting when reception buzzed. Your wife is here, the receptionist said, voice uncertain. I don't have one, I replied. I let her wait. By the time I walked out 30 minutes later, she was pacing the lobby, wearing sunglasses indoors and trying to look composed. But I saw the tension in her jaw, the way her nails dug into the strap of her purse. Jack, she said too brightly. We need to talk. No, I said calmly. You need to listen. She blinked, caught off guard. I'm not coming back, I said. I'm not fixing this. There's no apology big enough for what you've done. She stepped closer. Come on, Jack. You're being dramatic. We can work through this. You didn't want to work through anything, I said. You wanted to humiliate me behind my back. You wanted to win some twisted little game. Well, you did. Congrats. People were starting to watch. Her face flushed. Can we talk somewhere private? No. Her voice dropped, teeth gritted. Are you with her now? I didn't answer. The silence was enough. She scoffed, a bitter, disbelieving sound. Wow. Riley? Seriously? She's nothing. She's nobody. Funny, I said. You used to say that about me. And with that, I walked out the front door. The fallout spread fast. Madison didn't realize how small her world really was. The same people she used to gossip with, brag to, mock me in front of, they didn't have her back when the truth came out. Turns out, people like loyalty and respect. Two things she never gave to anyone, not even her friends. I didn't need to tell anyone. I didn't leak screenshots or air her dirty laundry. But Riley? She didn't protect her anymore. She stopped sugarcoating. When people asked why the two of them no longer spoke, she told them the truth. She cheated on him for months. She laughed about it. She treated him like trash. I couldn't be part of it anymore. Word spread. The Instagram captions turned vague and angry. Madison started posting solo wine selfies with melodramatic quotes like, "Sometimes you outgrow people." That's growth, not betrayal. Her friends? One by one, they faded. The ones who'd always been two-faced vanished first. The loyal ones stayed quiet, embarrassed they hadn't seen through her sooner. Then her affair partner ghosted her. I didn't know his name until Riley told me. Some guy from her marketing firm. Young, cocky, engaged at the time they started hooking up. Apparently, once Madison's marriage ended, he realized she wasn't as exciting as he'd imagined. She wasn't a fling anymore. She was a liability. A mess. A woman unraveling with no exit plan. He stopped texting, blocked her, quit the firm a week later. And Madison? She lost her mind. It started with the texts. "We need to talk. I never meant to hurt you. You can't seriously throw everything away over one mistake. Jack, please. She'll never love you like I did." I ignored them all. So she tried calling. Then showing up at my old haunts. Our favorite cafe, the dog park we used to walk through on Sundays, even Riley's building once. But she didn't get in. Riley had changed her codes. I'd made sure of it. The worst part? Madison didn't want me back because she loved me. She wanted me back because she lost. Because I walked away before she could destroy me completely. Because I found someone who saw me, believed in me, loved me, not out of convenience, but because she chose me. Madison never believed I'd leave. She underestimated what pain does to a man when it simmers instead of explodes. She didn't realize quiet men don't always forgive. Sometimes they just wait, and then they vanish. One night, I came home to Riley making dinner, sweatpants, no makeup, music playing from the speaker in the corner. She looked up and smiled when she saw me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, just reflecting. She handed me a glass of wine and leaned against the counter. "Madison sent another email today," I said. "What did she say?" "Same thing. Regret. Nostalgia. The usual." Riley frowned. "Do you want me to talk to her? Make her stop?" I shook my head. "No. She's not your burden anymore." Riley nodded, quiet for a moment. "Then, does it bother you that she's spiraling?" I shrugged. "Not really. Actions have consequences." She studied me. "You're different now. Better. Stronger." I stepped forward and kissed her forehead. "You helped me get here." She smiled against my chest. "I didn't do anything you couldn't have done yourself." I pulled her closer. "No," I said. "You believed in me when no one else did. That changed everything." Madison still sends the occasional message. Long paragraphs. Photos from our past. Links to songs she thinks will bring us back. But I don't open them anymore. I don't need to. Because the past is exactly where she lives now. Alone. Surrounded by the wreckage of everything she destroyed with her own hands. And me? I'm finally free. 6 months passed. It's strange how quickly life reshapes itself once you stop holding on to something that's already dead. I moved in with Riley in late spring. Quietly. No big announcement. No social media post. No dramatic declarations. Just a shared key. A drawer slowly filling with my clothes. And mornings where coffee was already brewing when I stepped out of the shower. Our life didn't start in chaos. It started in calm. And after everything I'd been through, that calm felt like salvation. I remember the first night we fell asleep together in the same bed. No sex. No urgency. Just two people who had been through a storm, finally resting. Her hand found mine under the sheets. And for the first time in years, I slept without waking in the middle of the night, drowning in doubt. Madison didn't give up easily. She made one last dramatic attempt to drag me back. A letter. Handwritten. It arrived in a plain envelope with no return address. Just my name, my old handwriting etched in swirling, familiar curves. Inside were 6 pages of clarity. She confessed to the affairs. Claimed childhood trauma. Blamed Riley. Begged forgiveness. At the end, she wrote, I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. Please don't build a life with someone who only ever stood in my shadow. I didn't respond. Instead, I slid the letter into a box I now keep in my closet. A box labeled Closure. It sits next to my old wedding band and a printed screenshot of the first text Riley ever sent me after it all began. Can we talk? I know what she said. And she doesn't deserve you. Turns out, she was right. Riley and I don't talk about Madison much anymore. She exists in the background, an echo, not a presence. Sometimes, though, we'll catch a glimpse of her in passing. An Instagram post. A mention from an old acquaintance. Once, we saw her at a cafe downtown. She didn't notice us. She was alone, staring blankly into her phone, stirring coffee that had long gone cold. Riley squeezed my hand. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel anything at all. Love with Riley is quiet. Not boring. Never that. Just real. It's the kind of love that doesn't need fixing or proving. The kind that sits beside you on the couch while you work late, sliding a plate of dinner next to your laptop without a word. The kind that notices when you're tired, when you're off, when you need space, and gives it freely. It's not about fireworks. It's about safety. One night, while we lay in bed, she rolled over and whispered, "Do you ever think about how different life would have been if I'd told you how I felt years ago?" I looked at her, her face half lit by the moonlight spilling through the curtains. "Sometimes," I said, "but maybe we weren't ready back then." She traced her fingers along my chest. "I think I was. I just didn't believe I deserved you." I caught her hand, kissed her knuckles. "You always did." Her eyes welled with tears. "Even when I didn't stop her, you did what you could," I said. "And when it mattered, you chose me." That's what I remember. We still have moments. Ghosts that pass through us when we least expect it. But they don't haunt us anymore. They teach us. I've learned that love isn't just passion. It's protection. It's trust. It's being seen even when you feel invisible. I've learned that silence can scream louder than words, and that walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. And I've learned that sometimes, the person you need most was standing beside you the whole time, waiting, patient, quiet, hopeful. Riley never asked to be chosen. She just waited for the day I'd see her clearly. Now, I can't imagine seeing anything but her. One Sunday afternoon, we walked through the park, the same one I used to avoid because it reminded me of Madison. This time, though, it felt different. Lighter. We stopped at a bench, coffee in hand, watching families play in the grass. Riley leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder. "I have something to ask you," she said. "Yeah." She looked up, smiling. "Nervous. Do you think we'll ever get married?" I looked into her eyes, the eyes that had seen me at my lowest, and never looked away. "I think we already are," I said. She laughed softly. "Not legally." "Give it time," I said. "I want to do it right. No lies. No games. Just us." She nodded, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "You're worth waiting for." And for the first time in years, I knew it was true.